Supportables, if you were watching, you know this week was an electric one. It's almost as if the NFL knew that a lot of fantasy playoffs were coming down to this week. Everybody was in the green, nobody in the red. People were overperforming like crazy. Some of the big performances were actually coming from a couple quarterbacks, but a heck of a lot of running backs. So a lot to talk about there. I know it feels a little different. People might be trying to celebrate, but if you're used to it at all, every single day now seems to be more NFL based. And we're going to get even more of that going into next week. But let's not rush it. First, let's talk about the matchups that were before we talk about the matchups that are going to be. I was going to start with the consolation side anyway, but it just makes sense considering our defending champions decided that they were gearing up for the playoffs and they were ready to go for this week. They were a high scoring team, although we can really kind of narrow it down to a couple players, to be honest. They had wide receiver 1 in Jefferson, kind of expected, all right, number 1 pick, something you definitely want to lock down. Jonathan Taylor, though, explosion, was the number 1 overall and the number 1 running back. This is something that maybe at the beginning of the year we would have thought, but we haven't seen this from Taylor in a while. So they must have been extremely pleasantly surprised or pleased on this one. They also got a massive performance out of Bryce Young, which a lot of people probably didn't see coming. He was the quarterback 3. And then Brock Bowers has been a staple all year. He was the tight end 2. So put that all together and you just had a monster performance. Jackie, this is super unlucky. This has kind of been your season though. You were a top 4 scorer this week. 150 has won probably a matchup 90% of the time this year. But this year, as you're going to know, and I think I said in the intro already, everyone was in the green. So unfortunately, it mattered even more who you were playing. So unfortunately for you, Jack, this does mean you are back down into the game you were trying to avoid. More on that when we get to those games. Just to say about the bench here, there were some points left on here by both sides. I'd say a few more on the winning side, but nothing that would have really shifted the tides overall. So unlucky, Jackie, and massive performance from Team Kickass. You are going into the consolation final, so congratulations on that. You may have noticed a small pause in my voice when I was going to say the words, Jackie, if you would have played anyone else in consolation, you would have, and then I didn't say that because you wouldn't have. Pamela, you did outscore as well. You had a monster performance. Unfortunately, Raph and James, that does mean I'm going to be talking about you later in the game you wanted to avoid, but more on that as we go. First, just a quick focus. Pamela, awesome performance here. Your running backs came through huge. Saquon Barkley was the running back 3, and when we get to your team report this year, someone who's really been kind of carrying you through. You did also have the defense 3, so you finished strong on the Monday Nighter. On the other side, though, Raph and James, you did put up a fight. Like I keep saying, everyone was in the green. Your kind of surprise of the year, I'd say, and Chuba Hubbard was the running back 2 this week. Great performance, and you're going to see a lot of running back performances on the high end. It was a running back heavy. For instance, Jerome Ford at 22 probably in most cases would have been a top 5, but not even close on, well, close, but a lot of people were plus 20. Luckily for you as well, or happily for you, Mahomes finally put up another solid performance. This one was the quarterback 5, which has been kind of a rarity for him. So you needed a lot more fireworks here. You didn't quite get it. You did have a few points on the bench, but adding it all up, you needed more than you actually had, especially when you went against a running back force like this and the quarterbacks performing well in Pamela. So Pamela, you go on to see, can you win the consolation final? Raph and James, again, you're going to be in the game that you were trying to avoid. Not the game that these two thought they'd be meeting in, and actually both of them finished off their season on a fairly positive note and a really good game. One of our tighter matchups here, obviously just 2 points that separates these two. This was to decide 5th or 6th, and a little bit of pride was certainly on the line. Team 4th and Conquer, you could have had things gone south. You would have been kicking yourself. You definitely had Cook as a great finisher of the year. He's had a few great weeks in a row. He was the running back 5, and I've told you, almost 30 points, running back 5. It was a big week, but you did leave some points on the bench. Keenan Allen was the wide receiver 2, so you would have been kicking yourself had this gone the other way. Randy, unfortunately for you, you had some inconsistent plays. You had our quarterback 1 in Jaden Daniels, and he did phenomenal with 5 touchdowns. That was a huge kind of capper of the year for you. And obviously you had Chase overperform and Bijan do great, but they didn't quite do enough to make up for the fact that Kupp has just had a horrible playoff run for you. Jonnu Smith, surprisingly, he's been great for most of the playoffs and most of the end of the season, but he wasn't today. Kendre Miller kind of let you down. And yep, you could also point, had you put pretty much anyone else that you may have been thinking about except for Brian Robinson. So congratulations on leaving him off. Tyjae Spears obviously would have put you over the hump. So would Baltimore's defense. So we could go back and forth and say optimal lineup versus optimal lineup, but it is what it is. It looks like Fourth and Conquer, you're going to be finishing 5th this year. Randy, unfortunately for you, after a great regular season, you fall to 6th, but we'll get to your season recaps when I get to the final video, not next week, but a few weeks' time. The downside of these videos is not only do I have to lose, but I have to talk about how I lost. Now, congratulations to our number one, 170. It was over pretty quick. I did have some moments where I thought potentially I could fight through, but just when I saw the way the week was going, I was super excited when I saw Mixon underperform and Lamar Jackson not quite get there. And I was really heading into Sunday with a lot of positivity. I'd worked it down to only a few percentage points difference in terms of the projected, and that the wheels just came off. And in that case, you were the number one seed for a reason, so I have to concede to that. You had the quarterback 2 in Goff, and you can't tell me you thought that performance was going to come. If I thought the quarterback 2 performance was going to come from your team, I definitely would have thought Lamar, who still played well, but Goff definitely had the performance for you. But again, your intangibles were great. You had the kicker 1, you had the tight end 1 in Kittle. Not a huge tight end week. And just your wide receivers, except for Shakir, just kind of came up. They stepped up. They did what they needed to do. Buffalo was obviously as well a huge point for you, although they did just sneak into the top 5. Now, I did out-defense you. I had the defense 2, so I had that going for me. I just had too many no-shows. Trey McBride kind of been a hit or miss for me all year. He's been mostly solid, but he's not getting the touchdown love. Achan's been awesome, and he was a running back 4. And Thomas, great pickup by me, wide receiver 3, but everyone else underperformed. I did leave some points on the bench. In fact, I left a lot of points on the bench. I didn't make a few decisions that were gutsy, and I thought to myself, if you got to beat the best, you got to try and do something sneaky. I don't know why I did, but luckily for me, I can't sit and swell on it because I wouldn't have won anyway. I did do the optimal matchup thing, and I would have still fallen short. Not by as much, and it would have been close, and I would have been kicking a lot of things, but it is what it is. Juliet and Lara, you're heading to the finals, probably where your team deserved to be after the epic season you had. For me, I fall a bit short, but I still have a bronze medal to win next week. And in our second semifinal, the most talked about matchup, at least by them on the chat group, we did have the Raw Doggers just fall a bit short to Kelsey, who makes her first final. So just a quick word on it. Yes, it is true. It really came down to Hurts getting hurt, although it's in his name. You kind of knew it was coming at some point. I'm not just joking. He had a concussion. That's a bad deal, bad break. It does happen. Unfortunately, in the semifinals, it just burns a little bit more. Although I will still say, going into Monday night, I know Paul is trying his best to do the reverse jinx and say he's magnanimous in defeat, even though I would have put money on Jacobs getting it 4 to the last 5 weeks if he puts up the score that he normally does. You guys get through and you do make it to the finals. He doesn't because Green Bay runs the table and New Orleans can't put up a fuss, and so he starts getting subbed out. So it was what it was. Now, on the plus side, both teams did show up again. Everyone in the green. Raw Doggers, you had the number 1 defense in Atlanta, and you did have the number 5 tight end in Laporta. You can see here, though, tight ends were not scoring a ton. Kelsey, on your side, the Williamses were huge for you. Caleb, number 4, and Jameson, number 4, in their respective positions. The big shock for you has to be, we're talking a lot about Hurts getting hurt. Allen got hurt as well. For those who actually watched the game, you saw the dead hand. He couldn't get his, feeling back in his throwing hand. Turns out quarterbacks need to have that feeling in the thing that they throw, because this actually had the makings of a much bigger game and a much bigger finish for Allen. So if I would have said one of the 2 quarterbacks in the top 5, no one would have blinked that it would have been Allen and not Williams, but it is what it is, and that's what makes fantasy football fantastic. Obviously, you still had a great performance by Gibbs, and looking down at the bench, nothing really could have shifted, although I guess funny enough, I think if you would have put Penix in for Jalen, you might have actually taken this thing, but that would have been crazy. For the most part, it just came down to, yes, health, but also execution. 1 extra play, 1 extra catch, a few extra yards, and this could have been a totally different story. So unfortunately, Raw Doggers, you're going to have to recover, and you got a bronze medal game to play against. Kelsey, it just makes sense. This league essentially started because you got curious about a Netflix show, so it kind of just fits that you're heading to the final. For looks ahead, I'm going back in reverse order, so we're starting at the top and heading on down, and obviously I'm going to try and do it as quick as I can. Now, this is crazy. Obviously, we haven't cleared waivers yet. There's a lot of people to be worried about injury-wise. Connor is certainly one. Allen is another. We got to think about defensive matchups, and you haven't probably made any adjustments yet. Obviously, Goff right now got dropped down, but will he stay there? I mean, he was a massive quarterback for you last week, and you've already got Knicks in against Cincinnati. So it looks like you've essentially made most of your moves smartly enough, because remember, Christmas Day, the things can actually start getting going. On the flip side, you're going to have some decisions to make about health, like I said, with the Camaras and Waddles of the world, but certainly Allen's the thing you're looking to the most, because I'm fairly certain you'd rather not have Drake May decide your fate. So if this actually comes down to it, right now we got a coin toss. That'll change a bunch after every game. Super exciting finals. Do we get our number one juggernaut that's been going on all year, or is Kelsey the team of destiny who comes through, finishes on a massive winning streak, and just turns the league upside down? I can't wait to find out. Raw Doggers, they say that your success in life is not just dictated by things that go your way, but it's your reaction to the things that don't, that really make you successful. So let's see how you go after a real tough beat, coming back against me, and you are the favorite right now, although like I said, within 55 it is quite a coin toss, and I think we both have some decisions to make that I don't know that we've made yet. If I look at your bench quick, I do see some defenses that are likely to go in, possibly a quarterback, although I really doubt it, depending if Hurts is actually hurt or not. So we're going to have some things to pay attention to. Me too, I've got some injuries. I did lose a wide receiver for the year already, and I've had to make some adjustments. I also don't know if I can trust a Dallas running back, so that might be something that gets shifted. We haven't cleared waivers yet, but it looks like it's going to be probably you slightly favored and me as the slight underdog, which is the only way I'd like it. Remember, there is actually more of a benefit on this one. Fourth place gets a handshake, whereas third place does get a little bit of cash consideration, so I'd be paying attention to this one if I were you. It's not just the bronze medal you're playing for. Crazy enough, on the consolation side, we had both the underdogs go through. And remember, this one is for pride, but there is only two teams that can claim that they finished the season on a 2-game win streak. One is the champion, the other is the consolation champion. So both of these teams are going to be gunning for it. We've got another kind of case where, again, there's going to be some adds and drops, but right now looks pretty tight. If we look on the bench, definitely some decisions to make here. If Pickens is healthy, if Samuel ends up being the running back like he kind of has been, I know wide receiver, you think I said the wrong thing. I didn't. If you watch the game, you know why. So I'm excited to see how this one breaks down. Both of you also, though, it's not just the consolation that can have you breathing a sigh of relief, or the finals, I should say. It's that you're not in the next game. Unlike the rest of the games, this is the only one where it's not the prize you are gunning for, it's the thing you're trying to avoid. And that is right. Do remember, in this league, this is the tub thumping bowl. The loser will have to get tub thumped, ideally at the Super Bowl party, or I can say actually Jackie is not going to be in Geneva for the Super Bowl, but I know where she will be. And trust me when I say, if she goes down, she'll have to do this at a real awkward time for her, so it's going to start off on Monday pretty weird. But either way, I'm hoping the best here. I think that both teams deserve a little better than they're getting off, but at the same time, someone's got to be in the 9-10 bowl, so it might as well be them. I would be willing to bet there's a few shufflings going around here. If we just take a look down here, we're going to have some decisions to make about health and whatnot, but we'll leave that to it. Just remember, you drink a whiskey drink, you drink a vodka drink, you drink a lager drink, you drink a cider drink. I can refer on the rules if need be, but here's hoping that the winner feels good about avoiding, and the loser is a good spirit. I alluded to it, but this is coming to you at a hopefully timely manner. We're looking at Christmas Eve when I'm recording, and probably sending it out Christmas Day. If you have Netflix, you can watch the games that are there and then pay attention to every day from on in. They do have games on seemingly every other day, or almost every day. So pay attention as best you can. I know we all want to care about our spot, so you should be fighting for whatever place you're in, but we all should be having a slight look at our final, because I do think, remember, it'll be our second team to win the championship. It will be a new team. Is it going to be the favorites? Is it going to be the underdog? Super exciting. Can't wait.